Next tip on getting into that flow state in your dressage tests is this one's quite an interesting one. It's a little bit different, but I often work with riders before they go into their dressage, and this can be the day before, the day of, this can be a couple of days before, this can even be in your warm-up. It depends on when this actually arises for each rider or where it's going to arise for you. And there's a bit of catastrophizing going on. It's quite common, quite normal, where there's that, if I do a bad test, everyone's going to laugh at me. If I do a bad test, I'll never get to ride at state. If I get a bad test, my coach will hate me. If I do a bad test, my parents will be angry and they won't talk to me. Even though sometimes that isn't always stated out loud, often as riders, it's that big in our mind of how much of an issue it is if we do a bad test. And one of the most important things is to actually bring that out of the shadows. And as a coach, to make sure that when you're asking your riders to be really honest about some of the things they're saying to themselves, is to not embarrass them or judge them or shame them for saying those, because they're so common. And the good thing about it is if you have really good rapport with your coach or with your rider, depends on how you're looking at this, you're able to say those things and you're able to bring them out. Now, when they come out, you can look at it from a different perspective. So let's say your worry is, if I do a bad test, everyone will laugh at me. And you're able to say, well, I'm actually thinking if I do a bad test, everyone's going to laugh at me. And we can say, okay, so what are you thinking? You're imagining everyone's going to stand up and laugh? Like, talk me through what you're picturing in your head when you say everyone's going to laugh at you, and then actually say to yourself, how true is that? And is that likely to happen? And sometimes when you actually look at it, you'll go, oh, actually, it's not really likely to happen. And so it gets you to look at it from a different perspective. But then I also flip it around and say, but what if everybody laughed at you and you finished your test and they're, oh my God, that was terrible. Could you handle it? Could you really handle it? Would you give up riding for the rest of your life? Would you never be able to get on a horse again? Would you never be able to compete again? Would you drop into a crazy depression? And look at it that way. Look at what the worst thing that could possibly happen. And then say to yourself, if it did, could I handle it? Would I still get up the next day? Would I still be alive? What could it teach me? How would I grow? Even though it's hugely unrealistic that some of these catastrophizing thoughts are going to happen, still go there. Still go there and say, well, if that did happen, would you still be alive? What would you do? Would you still be okay? And then when the riders, or when you can go, well, I would. It would suck, but I'd be okay. If you can think, it would be all right. I'd get through it. Then you've gone, okay, that's the worst that can happen. I'll cope. I can cope with the worst that can happen. Then it allows you to have more chance to go, when they come in and go, oh, they'll laugh at you, or your parents will hate you, or you'll never get selected, or your friends won't want to be your friends, whatever they are, and you've decided that, well, that's okay. I can handle that. Then they're not going to come in and annoy you. And then that's going to allow you to go, righto, I'm here now. I'm here riding this test for my horse. All right, I know my test. I know how to ride it well. I visualized it. I am here for my horse. I'm 100% here asking him what he needs from me. I have my warm-up. I know my exercises. I know what I can do to best support him. Righto, let's rock on. And it allows you to clear your head and get into that zone and get done what needs to be done, because all this extra stuff that's wanting to crowd your thoughts, remembering you might have a dressage test that's 6 minutes. You might have 18, 20 movements in that test. That doesn't leave you a lot of time between movements. So you want to make sure that that time that you have, you want your brain to be processing what's going to help you, what's not going to hinder you. So another little tip. When you're going into your dressage test, or when you're warming up, or when you're preparing and you hear yourself start saying all these things that you're worried about, go, okay, what if they happened? What if they happened on a big scale? Would I survive? But then also say, how likely is it really that's going to happen? And how much is this helping me by thinking that? Is this helping me? Do I really want to be thinking that? Is this useful for me right now? And it just allows you to step aside from it and say, no, you know what? You're cool. I can think about you later, but right now you're not helping me because I already know what I need to be doing. Just another thought. Enjoy.